Hey YouTube, Niall here with BlackMetalFinance to discuss some plays we made in the markets last week, as well as some things we're looking forward to in the markets this upcoming week. But first, please be sure to smash that like button and to subscribe to not only our YouTube channel, but to our Discord as well, where you can find the link in the description down below. And of course, please remember folks, this is not financial advice. This is strictly for education and entertainment purposes. Okay guys, so the first name we're going to take a look at here is going to be Apple. Here we have the 5-day chart, 5-minute candlestick view. And basically what we said last week was, look, there isn't that much demand for it to hit 125, 130 again. And so like we saw at the beginning of last week, we saw a peak at 124 before we saw some selling off into the week and then maintain another range in that 120, 121. I still am of the mindset that we need to see 100 to 110, maybe even under 100. And so we're going to evaluate and see what happens. Tech needs to pick up the slack this week, especially with the Suez Canal news. That's going to lead to a lot of lagging with the Dow stocks that rely more on transportation of goods, more so than services provided through tech. So I'm monitoring to see how tech, in particular Apple and Tesla, because those seem to be the way that NASDAQ likes to move. Okay, guys, so the first name we're going to be discussing from last week is a retail investor fan favorite, GameStop, ticker symbol GME. We were expecting to play this to the downside. It had held some support around that 190, 200 range at the beginning of last week. And again, here, folks, this is the 5-day, 5-minute candle chart view. We said we're going to play to the downside. Fundamentals do matter. And what did we see after earnings, or even in the buildup to earnings? Well, we saw it sort of drop down from that 180, developed new support at 160, and then after earnings, it just collapsed towards 120. And in fact, we did have some puts that ended up in the money at 120. And then what did we see there? We saw a bullish reverse double bottom here. And then towards the end of the week, it managed to close out at 180. Now, what was also interesting was that this tends to play the same direction when volatility is up. So it seems that retail investors like to run to this name when all the other guys aren't running hot. And so this is going to be something we're going to be monitoring. Again, fundamentals do matter, though people with this stock and the other YOLO stocks think AMC and Coast think they don't. I think the earnings report was a good way to let those investors know that it does matter. Another name that we did play as well was Adobe. We didn't expect too much of the upside on this with earnings. In fact, we actually said look for some possible downside, given that tech had been selling off so aggressively last week. But in fact, it actually maintained support. So again, what do we have here? This is the 5-day, 5-minute chart candle view. And just maintain this 450 channel, not too much support to the upside. And again, there is some strong resistance at 469. Let's see if we can break that and get to a previous resistance level at 500. But this is something that we're monitoring exclusively for our long-term portfolios. It is a great company, and guidance always continues to beat. Let's see what happens once tech begins to warm up and look and reevaluate this name. And then another one that we played, ladies and gentlemen, was going to be Bingo, BNGO. This is one where retail investors think that fundamentals don't matter, right? So we said last week this was around $9, and we said monitor how it behaves after earnings, and in fact, it just plummeted down. So we saw it go all the way from $9, sort of gather up some support again at 6.7 before rebounding and channeling in this 7.6 level. So this is something we're not going to be playing for a while and just monitoring. Again, it's risen up a lot. So if you zoom out again, let's take a look here, right? Now, if we zoom out, I can go ahead and delete. If we zoom out here and take a look, this bad boy was trading under $1 at the beginning of December, right? So we've seen nearly a 1,000% jump in 3 months, okay? So this is something that is to be expected when you see a stock run up that high. Fundamentals do matter and they take place. So we're just going to be monitoring this stock again. We've developed some good support around 6, and we'll see what happens when we touch those levels again. So those are some names that we played last week during a very, very choppy market. Let's go ahead and take a look at some names that we have coming up this week. Sorry. Okay, guys, so the first stock we'll be discussing for earnings are going to be our Monday names that report. First one is going to be a Danimer Scientific, or DNMR. And what we have here is the 5-day, 5-minute chart candle. This is a biodegradable plastics play that took off from December through February, as did most small caps, that showed support around 35 with some resistance at 50. So let's go ahead and take a quick zoom out so we can show you guys those levels. Right, so we got some pretty serious resistance here at 50 before tapering off and then developing some sort of support here at 35. Again, you can see it on this end as well. And there's no analyst expectations for this earning. We're looking for solid earnings to cause a nice spike. And in fact, there's some decent option plays. However, there's only monthly options available. So we have to see how volume holds up for this stock for its earnings. Okay, guys. So the second name we'll be discussing is going to be Canoe Incorporated, ticker GOEV. Again, this is the 5-day, 5-minute candle chart. And what do we see here? Unfortunately, this stock is on a downtrend right now. We're looking for potential good guidance and preview. However, this is going to be a marker for how these other small cap EV names play out. So just curious to see how it works. Unfortunately, there's only option, or rather monthly options for this stock. So just monitoring and determining to see how this will play out with other earnings companies. And then the last one we have for Monday is going to be LFMD or LifeMD. This is a healthcare play, possibly overvalued, but curious to see what they say about guidance. Remember, overall, taking a step back, COVID has revolutionized biotechnology in the markets. All right. So this is going to be the decade where you see healthcare meeting AI and software and the development of these new technologies. And so, COVID was only the catalyst for that. Let's look to see how continuation of how investors feel about this investment space. And this right here will be a good marker for that. Okay, guys, so the first name we'll be discussing for Tuesday's earnings are going to be BioNTech or BNTX. So this is a pharma play with COVID vaccine. If you guys recall, they're the ones who did a partnership with Pfizer last year in the creation of their COVID-19 vaccine. So we're going to be checking for guidance with a potential sell the news type of event. Earnings have in fact been below expectations the last 2 quarters with the delayed follow through to the downside. So, we're currently on the bottom of a wedge pattern here building up as well as an uptrend channel. However, there's poor options volume. So I'm looking to go for shares on this play versus any other way. Another name that we're going to be playing is MKC or McCormick and Company. Again, what do we have here? This is the 1 month, 1 hour chart. And this is a stay at home stock potentially with some downside risk. However, at a heavy support area, though we're at the upper end of our downtrend channel. So we're either looking for rejection at the upper end of this channel here around like 92, if you guys see that. But we're not expecting too much on this one. So remember, last earnings was a miss with expectations for this earnings to be online with previous pre-COVID levels. There could be some downside risk though, if we do get some poor guidance that don't match up with pre-COVID levels. Again, this has fallen down all the way to 80 from March. So there is some, 10% plus downside. And then lastly for Tuesday, we're going to be playing Wolf Chewy, ticker symbol CHWY. And this has been one that's fallen off heavy the last month and a half following that NASDAQ sell-off. Again, Ryan Cohen's company beat earnings the past 4 quarters, and thus earnings expectations should be raised as well. It's currently sitting on some support, actually some strong support built up here at 77. We're going to be currently monitoring for possible support and consolidation still. Okay, guys, so these are going to be some names that we're playing on Wednesday for earnings. First off is going to be a pretty popular one on the Dow, Walgreens. It had actually been beaten up and had been the laggard for the last 2 years before Walgreens and CVS being winners in the Dow for the last 6 months. But anyway, so let's take a look here. We have this nice uptrend channel with the stock nearing the bottom of this channel at $50. And even though previous earnings were below estimates, the stock still actually went up. So we're looking for good guidance here and support around that $50 range. Next up is going to be a pretty big important name, Micron, ticker symbol MU. And again, this is a 1 month, 1 hour chart. And what do we see here? It's in fact missed 2 of the last 3 earnings reports. And again, with the Suez Canal issue, any bad news could send this stock, and in fact, any other semiconductors, down a pretty bad hole. So again, potential put short plays on continuation here. And this will also be a great indicator for some other semiconductor names, your AMDs, your NVIDIAs of the world. Let's see if, real life news a la the Suez Canal issue does in fact play a part in the, when it comes to earnings numbers, as well as how the stock may fluctuate for the next couple of weeks. And then lastly, what we're going to be playing is another EV company, actually one of my favorites, Archimoto, ticker symbol FUV. Previously traded and held support at $14 before breaking that trend line. So we could be, potentially heading down for some more further downside. Earnings have been close to estimates. However, this stock has missed 3 out of the 4 times. And with the EV sector being recently hot, chances are we're going to be a cool down. So, this is going to be on Wednesday. We discussed GOEV earlier in the week. Let's see how GOEV plays out in order to get a better indicator for how FEV is going to play out. And I might also want to add, if Tesla, you could say is the, the Bitcoin of EVs, right? So when Bitcoin goes up, you'll typically see cryptocurrencies follow suit. Same thing going on with rather EV vehicle companies, right? So we'll see Tesla rally and then the other EVs follow suit. However, with Tesla sort of stuck in the mud, you've seen a lot of the EV names sell out. In particular, on the Chinese side, NIO, ticker symbol NIO, that one bled out pretty hard this week. So we're staying a bit away from Chinese equities. But right now, we're just going to be focusing on the American EV side of things. And so again, FEV is a name we'll be monitoring. A potential downside again to $12, which it did touch last week before we saw that rebound again to the 20, and then again another sell-off. It wasn't able to hold. So again, we're monitoring at 14. Let's see how the earnings play out. Okay, everybody, so that's all that we have for this week. Remember, we had some names that we discussed last week, your GameStops, your Adobes, your bio-nanogenomics of the world, and we discussed some earning names that we have for this upcoming week. Again, we anticipate markets to remain choppy, so overall, we're going to be monitoring Apple and Tesla and see how they're going to be leading NASDAQ. Again, with the Suez Canal news, you're going to see some hit on the Dow Jones. So let's see how the NASDAQ behaves and if it decides to finally pick up that leadership that we've been waiting to see. Otherwise, there could be some potential downside. Regardless, we're here to play it. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week, and please be sure to join our Discord with the link in the description down below.